Hi everyone, welcome to today's live stream. We are live from a very hot garden today. I think it's probably 90 or 95 degrees out. It is really hot. I am actually under the shade of a tree right above me, a magnolia tree. So it is toasty but you know what? The garden is doing great. We've got a couple things in place to help the garden survive the heat. That is our topic today, is helping your garden keep on growing even in a heat wave. We had cool and cloudy weather for a couple of months, and now all of a sudden we got bam, hit hard. Yesterday it was close to 100 degrees, and I think it's supposed to be in the high 90s for until about midweek. So I know a lot of you in the chat earlier. Let's see, where's my chat window here? Okay, there we go. There my chat window is. Hopefully you guys can see me and hear me okay. A lot of you in the chat earlier are saying it's also heating up in your gardens in Phoenix. Patricia is in Phoenix and she said it was 102 in Phoenix. That's absolutely crazy. And I think up in Northern California, it's hot as well. Now, Cliff in Idaho actually had a surprise freeze the other night, and he's tried some really creative things to help protect his plants. So the weather is crazy everywhere, but I'm glad you guys are joining me today. And we have Catherine from Ontario, not too hot in Canada yet. California Garden TV is in the house. He's in California, not too far from where I'm at. You can check out his YouTube channel as well. And we have Mauricio from Mexico. Let's see who else. Oh, from Beirut, Joe from Beirut. Wow, you're watching from very far away. So thanks a lot for joining me today. Let's see who else is here from Anaheim. Jessica, hi, I bet you it's pretty hot down in Anaheim today as well. So Pretty Alice Moon from Texas. I'm sure it's really hot there too, Alice. So today we're going to talk about some tips for the heat. But before we do that, I want to read the viewer of the week, and I'm really excited about today's viewer of the week because he has been a long time viewer, very faithful supporter of our channel. And I just read his wonderful comment on Instagram this morning, and I'm just so impressed with how he's grown in his gardening. And he's here today. So our viewer of the week is Jack Rudden. I hope I said your name right, Jack. Our viewer of the week is Jack. Hi, Jack. And he is gardening with his grandma, which I absolutely love. He says over on Instagram, this comment was on my Instagram this morning, my grandmother just harvested her first salad with your seeds, from the seeds that you sent her. I just planted some scarlet runner beans and zucchini seeds for my garden to replace the old ones. Now, Jack had purchased some of my seed collections. I think it was maybe in the spring or in the fall, and had me send them to his grandmother for a gift. And then he helped her plant a garden. So I just think that is so cool how he's spending time with his grandma. He's teaching her how to grow her own food. And then I believe, Jack, I think you said your scarlet runner beans and your zucchini maybe got damaged in a storm that you recently had. And he didn't let that stop him. He got right back out there and planted some more. So Jack, I'm so proud of you. You've grown so much. And I'm so thankful that you're a supporter and follower of our channel, and just great job with your gardening. So keep it up, Jack, and don't quit gardening, and keep on spending time with your grandma. That's absolutely wonderful. So let's jump into our first hot weather tip, and then I'm going to head into the chat to answer some questions. There's a ton of questions flying by, and I will definitely get to what I can today, because I know a lot of us are dealing with the heat with the summertime coming up. So my first tip to gardening in the heat, number one, is to plant some heat tolerant vegetables. Now that takes a little bit of pre-planning, maybe as you're starting your spring garden a little bit earlier, but it's not too late. You can still get some heat tolerant vegetables planted. Now, some of my favorite, so a couple of heat tolerant tomatoes that I really like are, one is called the Arkansas Traveler tomato. It does really well in heat and drought conditions. The other one is called the Marglobe tomato, which I actually have in my tomato seed collection. It holds up very well to the heat. It's actually doing really well in the hot garden right now. Really isn't even showing any signs of wilting, and I would show it to you, but it's another section of the garden that is really hot. It's actually up on the hill here. I just planted a transplant last week from the one that we cloned. Remember that one, guys? But those are two really good heat tolerant varieties. And I would love to hear any other heat tolerant tomato varieties that you have as well that you've had good luck with. peppers are also a really good heat tolerant vegetable. They are planted in the sunniest spot of my garden. They usually do pretty well as long as I keep them well watered. But I really do like to have the heat tolerant greens planted. The lettuce doesn't always do so well, or doesn't do so well over 75 or 80 degrees. But I actually just planted some heat tolerant greens from my heat tolerant green seed collection about a week ago. So it's not too late to get these planted. I started these indoors because it really gets them off to a fast start. Believe it or not, can you see that, guys? These are like a week old, and probably in about a week or two, they'll be ready to plant outside, and I will be doing a heat tolerant greens video so you guys know exactly how to get these planted. Did one last year, we'll be doing another one. But some great heat tolerant greens to grow are greens like kale and chard. I think I did plant some New Zealand spinach, but that's not in this little tray right here. But I think there's 3 or 4 different kinds of kale and chard, and then some Paris Island lettuce, which is right over here. I'm not sure if you guys can see that. No, it's over here, sorry. Romaine lettuce is a really good heat tolerant green, or heat tolerant lettuce. Does well in temperatures up to about 80 degrees, but the chard and the kale do just great in the heat, even temperatures up to about 100, 90 degrees, 100. My kale has survived through all kinds of weather. So I would highly recommend planting some heat tolerant greens. Now, I am having a sale today on my heat tolerant green seed collection. So you can head over to my website, CallieKimGardeningHome.com, and get 10% off with the code SUMMER. And I'm also running that sale on my Callie Kim Smart Pots. I don't know if you guys can see that right here, because you can also plant some greens or some veggies in containers, and then you know, it's a good way to move them around when it gets too hot so they get a little bit of shade. So first tip, grow some heat tolerant veggies. If you don't have some planted, you definitely need to plant some if you live in a hot area. Okay, I see the chat flying by. It's really fun to have so many people here and to see people in the chat early. I usually try and show up in the chat about 15 minutes early, and it's really great to see all the friendships that are forming. Okay, here's a question from Luz. Hi Luz, how are you doing today? Can I still direct sow peppers? Yes, you can. Now, what you want to do, I get a lot of questions. Is it too late to plant something or another? What you want to do is figure out the dates to maturity. So Luz, I'm so sorry, but I can't remember where you live. Is it in Texas? If you live in a place with a long growing season, you can pretty much plant any hot or warm weather vegetables at any point during the summer. Actually just planted some peppers a few weeks ago. I started them indoors. Now, I haven't always had a ton of luck with direct seeding peppers right in the garden. I know some people have great luck with that. It hasn't always worked so well for me. So Luz, you might want to get them started indoors under grow lights on a heat mat to get them off to a really fast start, and then that way you can still you know, have some time left in your growing season to get them planted outside and have some time to harvest some peppers before the cold weather hits. Okay, let's see here. How do you start a squash plant from a cutting? From Christian Brown. Christian, squash does not grow from cuttings, but the great thing about it is it's super, super easy to grow from seed. So if it's warm weather where you live, you can easily put some seeds directly in your garden bed, or you can start them indoors if it's still a little bit cool out. But it will sprout as long as it's between, say, maybe 55 and 75 on up to 90 degrees. It will sprout in about 5 to 7 days. It's a very quick growing vegetable. It's one of those vegetables that you can really plant all season long because it matures very, very fast. Okay, one more question here, guys, and then we'll head back for the second tip. I see a question from Deborah. Hi, Kim. Nurse Deb here. Hi, Deb. Day off to see you live. Oh, I'm so glad you could join us. It's really hot today in San Diego. Squirrels are eating my cucumbers and peppers. Help. Oh my gosh, those squirrels can be so persistent. The only thing I've really found that works with squirrels, we don't have a huge problem with them, but a couple years ago we did, and we did set some live traps and then relocated them. So if you're able to do that where you live, I would recommend that. Okay, second tip here, guys. After you plant those heat tolerant greens, and here's a little, here's my heat tolerant green seed collection if you want to pick those up on my website and get some planted. The second one is make sure that you are watering your vegetables. I know that sounds crazy, but especially during the heat, the plants will really undergo a lot of stress. Once it gets over 90 degrees, pretty much what happens to most vegetables is you're gonna start to see some blossom drop on tomatoes and peppers, maybe your cucumbers especially. They don't like the high temperatures, and you'll see them maybe wilting, you'll see the blossoms drop. You won't see as much of production, so you definitely want to get out there and check your plants daily, especially during the hot weather. And you may need to up your watering. So here in my garden, we use drip irrigation. I know a lot of you guys do too, but especially during the heat, I'm gonna, like right now, I water for about 30 minutes every 4 days. So I may need to bump that up to every 3 days or water them deeper, 45 minutes every 3 to 4 days, just to make sure they are getting the proper water. So I like to water in the morning or in the evening. I think right now my drip irrigation is set to go on about 10 o'clock at night. And that way, during the heat of the day, the plants have the water that they need. So avoid watering. I know it may seem common sense, but avoid watering during the heat of the day, because you're going to be dealing with a lot of water evaporation. And then you want your plants to have the water as soon as it starts to get hot during the day, so that it avoids stress on the plants. Now, I like to, let's see, where did my moisture meter go? I thought I brought my moisture meter with me, but I guess I don't have it here. I like to use a moisture meter to check my plants, and it has a little probe that goes down into the ground, and it can check to see how moist your soil is about 18 inches down. Or you can just use your finger for a moisture meter and just put your finger in the soil. Let's see if I can move my phone here to show you guys. You can just put your finger in the soil here. I don't know if you can see this or not, but as deep as you can go. This tomato plant is actually a little bit, I'm not having very good luck with moving this phone around today. It's just too hot out. But anyway, you guys get the basic idea. You want to check your plants daily to see how they're doing in the heat. And if it feels dry, you definitely want to water them. So keep them well watered, especially your containers. They're going to dry out a lot faster. So they may even need watered twice a day. So get out there in the morning, get your coffee while going out there. It's the best time of the day. I was out in the garden this morning at about 6 a.m. Checking all the plants, and make sure that your plants are faring well in the heat. Okay, pushing 90 plus in Sonoma County. Wow, that is crazy. Okay, questions. Let's head back into the chat. And question from Linda. Hi, Linda. How's it going? Can I succession plant a Tiny Tim tomato seed in a 5-gallon container where my current Tiny Tim is growing? Yes, you can. That's one reason I love Tiny Tims, is because, sorry guys, I gotta fix my phone here. It's all crooked. Is because they mature so quickly, and they're perfect tomato for succession planting. So they will mature in about 60 days. So I've got some current plants going. I just started some new seeds about a week ago. That way I have some plants ready to take its place when the old ones die out. So yeah, pop a seed in there. What I would also do though is start some seeds indoors. They're gonna get off to a faster start. And if you have the space available, if you have a grow light available, or you could even try them in a sunny window. But yes, definitely get those Tiny Tim tomato seeds succession planted so you don't miss out on harvest. Okay, let's see, Kristen, 100 degrees in the Bay Area. Wow, that's pretty crazy for the Bay Area too. Moved all of our smart pots in shade. Hopefully that will help keep them cool. Kristen, that's actually my next tip, so we'll lead into that in just a second, okay? And I forgot to mention, Everything Sunflowers and More is here moderating today. Well, she's here every week moderating. I just want to thank her for that. You can check her out on Instagram under Everything Sunflowers and More. Linda, can you leave the moisture meter in the soil all growing season? Linda, you wouldn't really want to do that because I mean, for me, it's a little portable device that I take around and check different plants in my garden. And I don't really want it getting like the top, gosh, I swear I brought my moisture meter down with me, but I don't really want it getting soaked like by, if it rains, which it doesn't rain too often here, but or by the sprinklers or whatever. I keep it in my kind of my garden toolkit and carry it around and check the different plants in the garden. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. Okay, let me take one more. Diane, do you clone Tiny Tims? You know, I have never actually tried cloning Tiny Tims. That would be a good experiment to try, Diane. And if you try it, please let me know how it goes for you. The cloning tomato plants has worked really well with a couple other plants in my garden. Okay, from Mickey. Hi, Mickey. I have tons of flowers on my Tiny Tim plants, but no tomatoes forming. Mickey, hang in there and be patient. I know sometimes patience is the hardest part of gardening, but it'll be a great exercise in growth, and hang in there because they will develop tomatoes very soon. Tomatoes like it warm. They like the temperature, the nighttime temperatures in the 60s, and the daytime temperatures warm up to about 90. So if it's been kind of cool and cloudy, hang in there. Hopefully they'll be forming again soon. Okay, third tip for gardening in the heat. We have plant heat tolerant veggies. Of course, check your garden daily for watering. Bump up your watering schedule if need be to help the plants avoid stress. And oh, I forgot to mention a couple videos that you guys are going to want to watch about the heat. And maybe Christy already popped it in the chat. We did a more detailed video about watering in the heat, and I'll pop those in the video description after the video uploads to YouTube, and you guys can watch that. And we also did one last summer about protecting your garden during a heat wave. So definitely check those videos out as well. So the third one, and we already referred to this a little bit, is keep your garden or use shade to your advantage as much as possible. Whether it's moving your containers into the shade, that's one reason why I love growing in the Cali Kim Smart Pots, is because you can keep your garden shaded and it works really, really well. You can keep your containers shaded or move them into the shade. Actually just moved my lettuce in a Cali Kim Smart Pots inside this morning because it's just way too hot for lettuce. You can also use shade cloth, and you guys can see in the background here, the shade cloth. There you go, the shade cloth that I used. I covered up everything yesterday as much as I could. There's so many different things you can use for shade cloth. The black cloths you see, they're covering some cucumbers and I think mostly cucumbers and some tomatoes. And the shade cloth I get is this shade cloth right here. And you can pick some up on Amazon. I put a link in the video description. But the reason why I love shade cloth so much is because it does allow some of the sun's rays to get through. This is a 40% shade block. So it does cut down on the intensity of the heat for your vegetables, but it still allows them to get sun. So it'll help prevent the blossom end, or not the blossom end rot, the blossom drop. It really just depends on how hot it is. Now, if you don't want to spend the money on shade cloth, you can definitely use old sheets, which will block out the sun's rays. But you know what? If it's going to be over 100 degrees, it's better to completely cover your plants than to risk them dying in the heat. So old sheets work really well. The other thing I've used is these old sheer curtains. I've had these around for so long. And this does still allow some of the sun's rays to get through, so your plants still will get some sun. So if you have any old sheer curtains, hang on to those, or you can pick up this sheer fabric, I'm sure, at any craft store. So just use what you have around the house, pick up some shade cloth. Now, I really don't get fancy with my shade structures. I tend to just kind of drape them over whatever I can find. I stick a couple old stakes. You can see in the garden bed right behind me there. I pretty much just stuck 4 stakes, or a stake in each corner of the garden bed, and then drape the shade cloth over it. And then I use little clips. I don't have any clips down here with me, but I use little clips that you can pick up at Home Depot or even probably on Amazon to clip them on the shade cloth onto the stakes. And it's worked really well. It's very simple, nothing fancy about it. Or if you have like a tomato cage, you can just kind of drape it over a tomato cage. There is a tomato cage, I think, in the corner right up here that I just draped over some shade cloth with. And you guys, you remember that big tomato cage we made for the video on Saturday? It has my winning beefsteak tomato. So I tried to get some shade cloth kind of low throughout the cage. I kind of strung it to really protect my winning beefsteak tomato because I do not want that thing frying up in the heat. So definitely use shade to your advantage. It will really help the plants avoid the stress of the heat. So I want to hear from you guys. Oh, Cliff, This is great. I want to hear from you guys what tips with shade cloth work for you. And Cliff just said extra large paper clips work well. So that's a great way to do it. The binder clips, it keeps it like super inexpensive. You can pick those up at any office supply store, at Target. So yeah, use whatever you can find around the house. So what else do you guys use for shade cloth? I would love to see it here in the chat. Okay, Nisha, I planted Tiny Tim and sunflower. Okay, guys, we are back. I guess I cannot stream when it is over 90 degrees. I guess I can't stream outside. So sorry about that interruption there. We are back inside. Quick little reboot here. Thanks for standing by. And I don't remember where I was. Let's see, I think I was talking about shade cloth maybe. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, we were seeing, I was asking you guys, what do you like to use for shade cloth? So pop in the chat here, go to a thrift shop for sheer curtains. Great suggestion, My Backyard. An old beach umbrella from Beauregard Rippey. Yeah, I meant to mention that too, is grab your beach umbrellas, grab your, whatever you use on your patio for shade, and whatever you can do to cover your plants or move them into the shade. The plants do not like temperatures over 90 degrees. So make it work for you, okay? Okay, let's see here. Let me see who is in the chat here. Any questions? Are you close to the desert area? It is, yeah, it is a pretty much a desert area. We're not right in the desert, but it definitely gets hot here. But it is kind of an early heat wave this year. And we are supposed to get in the 80s a little bit later in the week. So let's see here. Okay, here we are. And I think we had a super chat. I think camera guy is in the house too. Great to have you here, Jerry. I think we had a super chat. If I don't see it here, if someone can let me know, either Christy or Jerry, let me know who super chatted so I can call them out. Sorry, missed it while we were disconnected there for a second, guys. And the Rustic Ranch Garden, Bertha from Texas, hello. Okay, all right, guys, I am not seeing a lot of other questions in the chat right now, so I'm gonna head back and talk about our tip number 4. Well, you guys get your questions ready, and then we'll have some more time to answer questions at the end. So first off, plant heat tolerant veggies. Second off, make sure that you are watering regularly and more often. Third tip, check out, make sure you're shading your plants. And fourth tip, here comes Mac. Fourth tip is mulch. Now mulch, I would be absolutely dead in the water without mulch here in California. I like to spread about a 2-inch layer of shredded leaves. I happen to have a lot of shredded leaves. I have a friend who collects them for me in the fall. And I try and spread those over as much of my garden as possible to reduce the water evaporation. And what the shredded leaves do, or whatever kind of mulch you use, it really helps cover the soil, provide a barrier between the soil and the hot sun, so that it helps keep the roots of the plants cooler. And if the roots of your plants are cooler, then your plants are gonna be much less stressed during the hot weather. So whether you're using shredded leaf mulch, you could also use straw. You can also use wood chips if you have access to wood chips. And just lay that mulch down. I went around yesterday and mulched a lot of my garden beds that weren't mulched, and it'll really, really help your garden keep on growing. It's not going to be as productive in the heat, but it'll really help protect it from the heat of the sun's rays. So what do you guys use for mulch? Are you mulching your garden bed in the heat? I would love to hear from you in the chat here. Let's see, Andrea is here from Denmark, and she said, please send some of that heat to Denmark. I'm afraid my warm weather veggies won't do well because it hasn't gotten above 65 yet. Wow, Andrea, hang in there. Hopefully it'll heat up a little bit and you'll get enough sun at least, so your warm weather vegetables at least get some sunshine. And I don't know, maybe you can grow some stuff inside too if you have some grow lights. Okay, so what do you guys like to use for mulch? I would like to hear from you in the chat. Pretty Alice Moon uses wood chips. Wood chips are a great source of mulch. And the reason why is because they just provide a nice thick barrier. Now you do want to make sure with wood chips you're not mixing them into your soil when you plant. And usually what I do is I just scooch my mulch aside and then I plant my vegetables. Wood chips will tend to rob your soil of nitrogen, so just lay them down on the top and then just scooch them aside when you plant. And okay, thanks, Jerry. He said the super chat was from Luz. Oh, thank you so much, Luz. I appreciate that so much. Super chat for $4.99. Thank you so much for showing your support of Jerry and I. And here we have Catherine talking about using shredded straw as mulch, but I'm finding that I have lots of my wheat seedlings popping up from using this. What can I do to stop the seedlings from popping up? Catherine, there's really not much you can do about that. If there's seeds in the soil, or seeds in the mulch, they are gonna pop up. I have that too from time to time. And I know that's one reason why I don't really recommend using hay, because there do tend to be a lot of extra seeds in hay. So if you're having that problem with straw, you might just kind of want to periodically go through and pick out the seedlings that you don't want. Okay, here's Alina Jones. Last year I used mulch from the city trash and sanitation, which was free. This year I purchased and use a mixture of cypress and pine mulch. Okay, that's great. However you can mulch your garden in the heat is gonna help your garden avoid stress that much more. Now you guys might see right behind me here, I do have some things growing indoors. This is some lettuce. I know the light is really bright there. This is some lettuce I just planted from seed a couple of weeks ago. So don't stop growing. It's not too late to grow your own vegetables. These are all lettuce seeds from my lettuce seed collection. And these will go like in shaded areas of the garden. I have a planter, a veggie pod planter under a tree. It also has a shade cover. So you can still plant things. It's not too late. I know it's June, but don't stop growing. You want to have those harvests like we talked about last week. You want to always be growing something so you have those harvests throughout the growing season. Okay, everything sunflowers and more, great suggestion. You can get hay without seeds down in Florida. I think it's called Timothy grass. Okay, wonderful. That's great. Rudimental gardener, I use straw, but you need to make sure that your source has not had pesticides. That can kill your veggies. Okay, great suggestion. Thank you so much for all your wonderful suggestions. Pat Sella, let's see if there's any other questions here. Scrolling through. Okay, here is a question. Linda Johnson, sweet bananas, I'm assuming you're referring to sweet banana peppers, are getting purple marks on them. What is happening? And Linda, are you referring to purple marks on the stem? Because if you are, that's perfectly normal. Peppers often get kind of a black color or a purple color on the stems or in the joints of the pepper branches. Perfectly normal, nothing to worry about. So your peppers sound like they're coming along really, really well. And we have Sophia from Greece. Hi, Sophia. Thank you for joining us. It's so fun to see people from all over the world. Okay, patio gardener. My grandmother used to use cocoa leaves as mulch and it smelled like chocolate walking up to her house. Wow, that's a great idea. It's so much fun to hear what other people do all over the world. Hi, Jeff. How are you doing? Do potatoes need partial shade? Potatoes are actually a little bit more of a cooler weather vegetable, a regular like russet potato. And Jeff, I know you're out there in Joshua Tree that gets super, super hot. I can't imagine what the temperature is there today. I've only grown potatoes one time. It was during the winter time. We're not huge potato eaters, but you're probably gonna have a lot more luck, Jeff, with regular russet type potatoes in the winter out there in Joshua Tree. Although I know it gets really cold there too, so you might wanna try it in the early spring. Now, sweet potatoes are a whole different story. They're very heat tolerant, so you may wanna pick up a sweet potato vine or some sweet potato starts and get them going out there now, and hopefully you'll have better luck. Okay, my eggplant has black spots on the leaves. Any natural remedy? Okay, you may want to pinch off those leaves with black spots on them. And what you can do is maybe try spraying some neem oil, but I usually do remove any signs of disease right away. You can spray neem oil regularly throughout the season to help as a pesticide and a fungicide. The best thing you can do too is really keep your plants healthy. And that's why one reason I like to water with the worm tea and use the worm castings, because it does put that beneficial bacteria, does encourage the beneficial bacteria and microbes in the soil, and it kind of settles around the roots of your plants, and it really helps them, protects them against the pests and diseases, really helps them be healthy. Okay, from Luz, here's a question from Luz. Thanks, Jerry. Her question is, can you use shredded paper as mulch? You can use shredded paper as mulch. I would think, I've never tried that before. I've added to my compost pile, but I would think you would want to maybe just use the newspaper that's just black and white. I would think it might kind of make a mess around your garden, but you could try it. I would probably try it in a couple areas first before you spread it all over the place. I know it will break down your compost pile fairly quickly when you're watering it down and you're turning it. So give that a try and then let me know how it works. Okay, Linda, the purple marks and streaks are on the sweet banana pepper fruits. Okay, so on your fruits. So Linda, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I believe from the yellow bananas I grew last year, I did see a few kind of streaking marks on them. So don't worry about that. If they're a black spot, that's something I would definitely worry about. That is a sign of a disease of some kind, or maybe a pest got inside and your plant is rotting, or your pepper is rotting. But as long as your pepper looks healthy, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Okay, Priscilla, how often do you add Epsom salt to peppers? You can add Epsom salt maybe once a month or so. I used Epsom salt when I first started gardening, but since I've been using the worm castings and the different amendments I add to my soil now, I really haven't found a need to use that, but you definitely can use that once a month or so to give your pepper plants a boost and to really help them producing. Okay, Dan S., where do you buy your fertilizer from? Okay, Vermistera.com is where I get the worm castings and worm tea, and you can get the Good Dirt plant food at good-dirt.org, and make sure you use the discount codes that will be in the video description. Okay, I did buy the worm castings. That's great, Priscilla. They work really, really well. Here is a question from Janira. I live in a small apartment. My other veggies are growing great. My plants are dying, spots and wilting. I did great last year, no luck this time. Okay, You might want to look at your watering schedule. Sometimes plants get a disease called damping off, and it's when they all of a sudden just kind of keel over and die. And a lot of times that happens from if you're watering a little bit too much, or maybe there's like a fungus or bacteria in the soil. So the best thing you can probably do is just start over with some new plants and try and not overwater the next time around. Okay, Patio Gardener, thank you so much for pointing that out. They do have Good Dirt at Target, at select Target stores. You can check your local Target store or check online, enter your zip code at target.com and see if they carry it in your neck of the woods. So let me just answer a couple more questions, guys. I hope it is cooling off there where you all are. I'm telling you, I'm a lot cooler now that I went inside. So let me see if there's a couple more questions that we can answer. Okay, Andrea, I have not grown ground cherries, so not sure how to answer that question. Maybe someone else in the chat has grown ground cherries and can help her out. Learn to Grow, welcome, glad you're here. Question from Missy. Something is eating holes in my peppers. They grow fine. It's just something it gets before I do. What could it be and what should I do? That is the question of the year. There's so many different things that could eat your plants. Go back and watch the past couple videos from a few weeks ago where I talked about holes in my pepper leaves as well. So there's any number of different bugs that could be eating your peppers. And I talked about some different things you can do, spraying with neem oil, spraying your plants off with water, even putting beer traps in for slugs, going out at night and shining a flashlight to see what bugs are around at night. Because if you can identify what pest is eating it, that's half the battle. Okay, from Mishka. For small container garden, will moving them where it is continuous days of rain benefit, or just leave them? Well, you may want to try and cover them maybe with an umbrella if you're having continuous days of rain, like weeks of rain. I mean, a couple of days of rain is fine. It'll soak down your plants and really help them grow, give them all the natural minerals that are in the rain. But there comes a point where your plants are getting waterlogged and disease will set in. So you may want to move them under an awning, under the eaves, just to help protect them and help keep them dried out just a little bit. Okay guys, I hope your gardens are doing well in the heat. Don't forget our tips for growing in the heat. Plant heat tolerant veggies. Make sure that you're checking your garden daily for watering, using shade to your advantage. And also, my last one was mulch, 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 mulch. Hopefully next week it'll be a little bit cooler and we can be outside for the whole entire live stream. So don't forget the sale just today only on my website, CallieKimGardeningHome.com, only on the heat tolerant seed collection and the Callie Kim 5-gallon and purple mini smart pots. And that sale will expire tomorrow, which is Tuesday, June 11th at midnight Pacific time. And make sure you use the code SUMMER to pick up your sale items. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me next week. Look forward to